Jags are starting to get downright defensive, and I got a couple of things I want to say about it. I'll do it today here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, good people? Thanks for joining me today here on another edition of Locked On Jaguars. I'm the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, Tony Wiggins, and here we say it is your team every day because we thank you for your first listen. We also are free to subscribe to on our YouTube page. Make sure you tap into Locked On Jaguars on the YouTube page. Hit the like button, hit the bell so you receive notifications every single time you get an episode. And of course, I want you to subscribe. Wherever you get your podcast at from an audio standpoint, make sure you tap in there every single day also to make sure you don't miss an episode. And today's show is sponsored by our good partners over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest prices. It's all guaranteed at Gametime. Make sure you check it out. All right, man. Shout out to the everydayers for joining us every day here on Locked On Jaguars. And you can be an everydayer too. Just come back every day. All right. So we're going to hit this defense, man. We talked a lot about the offense, gave them a lot of love yesterday on Victory Monday. And today we're going to talk about the defense. And I know some people saying they're going to look at the thumbnail and say Wig is going to overreact because they're playing a little bit better. And you know, see, every addition to this team you hear people talk about right now that they want to trade for at 3-2, there's always a defensive player, right? There's always a high quality defensive player. It's going to cost you to give up a first round pick for him. So we're going to talk about how much sense that makes in segment 2, in segment 3, and possible trade additions. How those turnovers keep coming in segment 2. I mean, it's like, hey, it's charity right now, right? But to me, it's charity that's created by other stuff, things that they're doing well. So we'll go over that as well. But first segment here, how the defense is taking care of business. And I know some people will disagree with me on this because I see all of the tweets about the defense all the time. In fact, folks were posting up the offensive numbers from Trevor Lawrence in the advanced sort of analytical way. And then people were saying, boy, if we had a defense to play to match that, how good we'd be. And then it made me almost choke and wonder what games have they been watching? Because quite frankly, in at least 2 of the 5 games that they played, the defense has carried this team. In fact, the offense could barely muster up anything in a couple of these games, and at least in one half of the other game. And the defense kept them in it. And in those games, I believe they're 2-1, right? So the defense had a bad day against Houston. They had a bad day against Houston. The special teams made it even worse, right? They let a fullback run a kickoff return backward. He didn't just run it like by accident either. Like he picked the ball up in a spot where nobody expected. He like Gale Sayers and Barry Sanders, everybody, and he juked everybody, and then he ran around people, and he outran folks that were halfway running. And I think that falls on the defense. This ain't fantasy football where your defense and your special teams are put together, all right? That was a gaffe. No other way to put it. That was just a gaffe by the special team. So I don't know how much you can really blame the defense that day. I think what drives people crazy is, and here's the point. Here's where I say people are going to get a little bit upset at me. I don't know if people are so much concerned about whether the defense is actually playing good. I think people are more concerned that the defense, it don't look like you want it to look, right? Because of the resources and the things that have been used. Pardon me, I got to cut my fan on real quick. That medicine got me kind of warm, but I don't want you guys to hear it. But listen, it just doesn't look how you want it to look. And sometimes when you get the result that you want, but it doesn't look how you want it to look. And what I mean by that is, here's what people want the defense to look like. They want Trayvon Walker to look like Nick Bosa or Khalil Mack. Or this past week, they want him to look like A.J. Ebenezer, right? I get it. I'll go back to the Houston game because Houston had 4 reserve offensive linemen and you couldn't find Trayvon and you couldn't find Josh Allen. But mainly, people were really talking about Trayvon Walker. That's why, because he was the number one pick was used on Trayvon Walker. And if I have to go over this number one pick, I heard it's not just with him though. So I'm going to tell you, I saw a segment the other day where the experts on TV, guys that played the game and guys that have been around the game, the movers and shakers at the networks, were debating Brock Purdy. And at this point, they keep bringing up where he was drafted. If you're bringing up where he was drafted in anything except a good way, you ought to stop doing this for a living. And what I mean is, you should be it should be a compliment that this kid was picked last in a draft. But folks are using it as an argument against him being the MVP when they have demonstrated performance and tape right in their face. Are we still talking about Tom Brady being a sixth round pick if it's not complimentary? Are we not going to make him a first ballot Hall of Famer because, well, he was a sixth round pick? I actually heard somebody saying that about Brady the other day. He's a system quarterback. And at what point do we start actually making the main thing? And that is, can somebody play? At what point? So in Trayvon's case, it's kind of being used the other way. If you ask people down there, are they happy with his play? They'll tell you absolutely. And then here we go. What we'll do is, because of the way we live today, we'll go, oh, they're just CYA. They're covering their own, you know what? It doesn't mean that if you ask them if he plays, if he develops a little faster as a pass rusher, would they like that? They'll be, oh yeah, we like that too. You see, it's always, do you like mayo? Yeah, so that means you don't like mustard. And that's not true. And when you look at it, I think this defense is playing well. That's why, they asked for more turnover. They got it. They asked for more sacks. Up to this point, they got it. And they got a major piece not missing in the middle, right? Josh Allen has 6 sacks. Trayvon has 2. Now, if you push that out, that means Josh Allen's going to end up with 24 and Trayvon's going to end up with 8. And that'd be 30 with those 2 guys. You can't do that, right? You can't just let those numbers trick you and make you play games like that. You can't. But the thing is this is how ridiculous that sounds to me. At this point, so we say, well, no, don't look at the stats, Wig. Take your own advice and watch the tape. Yeah, I watched the tape. Are there points, are there times when I wish they could get better pass rush? Trayvon included, mainly. Yeah, of course it is. Absolutely. But then they do these other things so well, like they stop the run, and then their physicality are causing a lot of these fumbles, by the way, and a lot of these turnovers. We'll talk about that in segment 2. And then there are other plays. I saw Trayvon make a tackle 30 yards downfield the other day, and in this same scheme that they're running, do you realize why he was there? He was there because of the scheme. I'm not saying that that's a reason to like it. I'm just saying it's just a fact. It's just a fact. I'd rather focus on who they are instead of who they aren't. And then y'all go on grocery shopping for these trade deadline people. You go on grocery shopping with basically an empty stomach. You're going to buy a whole bunch of stuff that you ain't going to need long term. But it's going to cost you stuff that you got right now. I'm going to talk about all of that. All of that. We're going to get into it, man, because we just have to, man. We gotta get to the point where we see what's in our face. We know what we're looking at. And I just want everybody, mainly Jaguar fans, I want Jaguar fans to show people how smart they are. So I'm not going to sit there and say I want them to sound smart. No, Jaguar fans are super smart. I just want them to show it. Show everybody else how smart you are, not how smart you're not. We'll talk about that in just a second. Give you a little more here on Locked On Jaguars as we move forward. Listen, Gametime, the app. I know all y'all people call me and ask me for tickets all the time. It's the stuff that's not even here in Jacksonville, right? And it's cool to be known about it. But I'm going to turn you, the best thing I can do is give you to somebody that can really help. And that's Gametime, the Gametime app. All right? You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fastest and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. I'm telling you, man, you can see the view from your seat and all of that stuff at the Gametime app. Here's what you do. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Once again, download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first offer. Once again, terms apply for $20 off. The promo code is LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDONNFL. Game time today. Download it. Last minute ticket, lowest prices guaranteed. Okay, man, keep it in on the middle of the road here on Locked On Jaguars. I hope I teased you enough to come back here and want to have this conversation with me about these turnovers, man, because no, I'm not talking about those strudels and the kind your mom used to make for you when you stayed home in the summertime or you claimed that you were sick, the ones that look like those little paper footballs. I'm talking about the turnovers that come on a football field that the Jaguars worked their butt off and spoke about ad nauseum that would be happening this season. It's getting the ball back when you ain't supposed to have it. It's acting like that ball belongs to you. Taking it. They do it in the air. They do it in the air because of great positioning and guys that are actually looking to play ball. Shout out to cornerback coach Deshae Townsend, as well as his valued assistant T. Mitchell. They have done a real good job of having guys play with the kind of confidence they need in order to make a play on the ball, because that's a risky thing to do now. You make a play on the ball if you want to and make the wrong choice, it'll be 6 because the guy will be going the other way. You turn that head at the wrong time. You know, it's like it's catch-22. Do I stay here and stay in this position knowing he can't catch it with me in this spot? Or do I take a chance to try to pick it off, but in taking that chance to try to pick it off, I screw up and this guy gets a free look at the end zone or gets a first down and gets a whole bunch of more yards. So it's a business decision at times, but it's one the Jaguars have done a good enough job to recognize when to say when and when to go after the ball. The ones that have impressed me are the turnovers that are caused by fumbles, which are caused by guys getting shellacked, getting their arms hit, folks laying their shoulder and their helmet right on the ball, guys chasing things down from behind and coming in with strong hands and stripping the ball out and making a concerted effort to use their physicality and it's almost like a hyena-ish. By the way, I look at Nat Geo all the time. That is like the most hated animal on earth, in my opinion. But those hyenas do that very well. They come take stuff that don't belong to them. They make a lot of noise and do a lot of chirping too, but that's a whole nother podcast. But they come in and take stuff that doesn't belong to them. And let everybody else do the dirty work. Yep, leopard, you kill it. Now, move out of the way. You better get you a couple of bites in because it's going to belong to me as soon as I get there. And that's what they do. And I love the DBs that are playing that way. The linebackers, everybody just getting it, even the D line. When that ball is they believe that ball belongs to them, even when it's not in the air, even when it's not on the ground. So the only way we can take it is to put it in the air and put it on the ground. And if you notice them, there has been a deliberate, very pointed effort. It was intentional. That this is one of the things that they were going to work on because they talked about it. I think what helps them get to that business and to be able to stand on it is the fact that they are now comfortable enough in Mike Caldwell's system. Did I say comfortable? There you go. Comfortable enough in Mike Caldwell's system that they can pull this off. And they can do it off. And that's what makes you take those risks that we talked about earlier. You take those risks when you get more comfortable in your program. It also takes guys with strength. And this is where those traits come in with Trent Baalke. The strength, the long arms, the dog attitude, like a guy like Darius Williams, who's not big, but he's a real good athlete, to go up in midair and know that he's running down with potentially a first ballot Hall of Famer and goes, "No, give me that. That's mine, dog." By the way, I may start doing a player spotlight. Darius Williams was a real good free agency signing. They just didn't know how to use him when he first got here. That dude can play. All we talk about is Tyson Campbell, and rightfully so, because Tyson Campbell's a real good player. Darius Williams can play. He is a junkyard dog who can play. I know everybody wishes he could play the slot as good as he plays outside, because people feel like it's easier to find an outside corner than it is a slot. But he's a dog, man. That dude, he's pound for pound, might be the toughest guy on the team. Pound for pound. Shout out to Jamal Agnew. I know you're tough too, but I don't want no smoke because I can't run from you. So, but Darius Williams is the real deal, man. He is the absolute real deal. And he's slowly becoming a player that's getting to the consciousness of this team and hopefully the consciousness of the opponents. As a guy, you don't want to be loosey-goosey around here and start throwing the ball. He caused a fumble too with the tackle. And he got an interception. He got a pick six a couple of weeks ago. And he got a big time pick the other week. The other game, look at me. Okay, yeah, that's the medication. So Sunday against the Bills, he got a big time play that could have led to the Bills getting closer and probably taking the lead on Jacksonville at a critical time when Jacksonville needed to stop the bleeding. That's what these turnovers do, man. They stop the bleeding. They either keep momentum going and get you a hot offense the ball back, or give them an opportunity they didn't earn. But guess what? It's a freebie here. You messed up. You got us in trouble, but I got this back for you. So go. Let's go. And it's really, really been timely because these turnovers have come when the offense actually needed a little bit. They needed a boost. They needed another chance. So shout out to Darius Williams. Shout out to the rest of the defense, and shout out to the Jaguars for, like I said, being very, very pointed and deliberate that this is something that they were working on. Because when you do stuff like that, you almost put yourself in that Doug Peterson category of when you say who's calling plays, now everybody's going to be watching it, right? So when you say and you tell people that we have worked on this specific thing and we want to see what happens, folks are going to hold you to it and say, okay, just like they're doing with Trayvon and pass rush. They say, okay, he worked on his pass rush moves. Let's see. So far, it's about 50-50 on whether people think he, did a good enough job at that, right? So now what you have is the Jaguars told us about this, and the media will tell you, they talked about it all the time. And now it's actually happening. So now you got to go back and give a little high five to whoever is making that happen, because it absolutely makes them a really, really good team. We're going to talk about possible trade additions and why everybody thinks you're going to get somebody like Brian Burns or Danielle Hunter. And I hate when people use this term, we're going to go kick the tires. So you're going to go kick the tires on a Pro Bowler who's 27, 28 years old. That's not what the term kicking the tires means, but we'll talk about the possibility of trade additions, what it'll cost, and why some of it doesn't make sense. We'll do all of that here in just a second in our third and final segment on Locked On Jaguars. But first, I got to talk to you about FanDuel. With all this talking I'm doing, I hope you are listening and going to get you some money, because FanDuel is the absolute truth. It is cold, man. I'm telling you, all you got to do is understand that right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's it. Listen, I'm going to say it again. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to do it and get into the action right now. This app is easy to use. The spreads, the player props, over-unders, and more. All of the information and research you need on the players is right there at your fingertips. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel.com/locked-on, kick off the NFL season, because FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. And we're running it down here, third and final segment, giving props to the defense today, like I said I would yesterday on yesterday's podcast. Do want to tell you, we got the Colts coming back for another crossover. I know we already seen them. We don't need to see them too much, but they'll be back here Thursday. We can go ahead and dispose of them and get those 2 wins over the Colts. So listen out for Thursday. Listen out for Thursday's podcast, which will be a crossover edition with Locked On Colts, and see how it feels to have Gardner Minshew coming back here to play a game against the Jaguars. Also, make sure you check out Locked On NFL every single day, making it your team every day and your next watch all over YouTube, man. The YouTube page gives you shows from around the National Football League. Make sure you check that out and subscribe also. And for all of you who don't know, I moved from Tuesday to the Friday show myself. I'm on a Friday show with David Harrison now. And it's usually a recap of the Thursday night game and a look ahead to all the Sunday games. So it's a little bit different, but still fun. Make sure you tap in. Listen, go hit this defense. Last thing about this defense. Everybody wants to make these moves, right? Everybody wants to make trades. Every single team that looks like they're not going to be good this year, folks are Jaguar fans are scrolling. I'm telling you, man, the fans are scrolling through those teams' rosters like they're the IRS something, right? They're looking to see where you need to cut the fat and if that fat can actually benefit us, right? One of those positions is the edge spot. So we'll get to that right now. Since we've been talking about defense all day, everybody wants to add an edge. I get it. I do. Someone put a graphic up today that two of the guys that lead the league in pressures are Jadeveon Clowney and Yannick Ngakoue, two people who reported had discussions with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, they both playing pretty good, right? They both playing pretty good. Then you look up at Aiden Hutchinson, you think I don't know how many sacks he has. I think he has 4.5 or 5. And I think Kayvon Thibodeau has 4. And Trayvon has 2. And I think people look up and, kind of make you feel like they wish they would have drafted one of those guys. Be careful. Be careful. All I'm telling you is that kid does a lot of stuff over there that they like. So, and in shaping the identity of the defense. And I know somebody's going to say, well, you don't use the number 1 pick on that. And we talked about that in the first segment about where guys were picked. I don't want to talk about where dudes are picked no more. I don't really. Because once they're here, they're here. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter one iota. People didn't want Travis Etienne because we had James Robinson. They said Travis Etienne was a waste of a draft pick. James Robinson, I don't even know if he's in the league, and if he is, he's somebody's backup right now. And Travis Etienne is one of the 7 or 8 best running backs in the NFL, and he probably saved the game the other day. And he's the second best player on offense consistently. So be careful what you say you want and what you don't want. And then two years later, not even 2 years later, you're looking at you're going, oh, oops. Right. So when it comes to these trades, a lot of the players, I've heard Brian Burns. I don't think Brian Burns going over. I heard Chase Young. I heard Montez Sweat. I heard Daniil Hunter. So I'm going to focus on those 4 guys right there, right? What would it cost? 3 of those dudes going to cost you a number 1 pick. Minimum. And I know you're saying that since the Jaguars are now a Pro Bowl, a playoff team or a playoff caliber team, that number 1 pick is going to be late in the draft and it doesn't matter, right? So let's look at what the Jaguars are facing. And this is why I hate doing this, because the Jaguars have enough blue sky at 3-2 right now. I honestly think that they're going to be 6-2. They're going to wake up after 8 weeks. They're going to be 6-2. At worst, 5-3. The only game that could get them is the Thursday night game in New Orleans. I think they're a better team than the Saints. Shout out to Ross Jackson from Locked On Saints. But I don't think that that's all that it entails. You got New Orleans, you got Thursday night, you got playing at home, you got those loud fans in that building, and then you got a Saints team that does have a lot of weapons on that team and a real good stout front seven. So anything can happen in a game like that. So the thing is though, that gets me is you hate doing this because you're looking at what they have right now and you're already forecasting and prognosticating. It forces you to look into the future. See, this is the job of a GM. Somebody might say, well, it ain't forcing you to look in the future. You're doing it yourself. No, you can't have these conversations. You cannot have it. It's almost like doing mock drafts before free agency. You're just guessing. Because you don't know what a team you might know what a team needs now. You don't know what a team's going to need in February or March. You don't know by April what they're going to need because you don't know what they're going to do in free agency. But we do it and we have an exercise with it anyway. Talking about trading future assets right now, if you're a Jacksonville Jaguar, does make you pause a little bit and make you have to look at the future and why it's so important. Here's why it's so important. They said last offseason and around the draft that they were transitioning a little bit from a spend heavy and free agency team to draft and develop. That it was going to be critical. Now that they have their quarterback and they got to pay him soon, and this is what people don't understand, and they got to choose whether they're going to pay Josh Allen. They're already paying Cam Robinson. They're going to have to choose whether they want to pay Walker Little, and all within the next 18 months. They're going to have to pay Tyson Campbell. They're going to have to pay Andre Sisco. They're going to have to pay Calvin Ridley. You see where I'm going with this? If they're going to be draft and develop, part of draft and develop is also draft, develop, retain, and then continue drafting. Draft picks are your way of getting talent that you don't have to pay a lot for because they're young and they're rookies. You hope to get first round production. A first round pick, you expect to get the type of production that if that player was a 5-year vet, that player would be earning $15 million a year. So when I tell you have to look forward, here's what I'm talking about. Okay, you want to trade for Daniil Hunter, who's making $20 million this year, right? The last year of his deal. If you trade a first round pick away for Daniil Hunter, then Daniil Hunter can't be a half-year rental. If he's not a half-year rental and you extend him, can you extend him and extend Josh Allen? And if you do that, are you going to just move Trayvon Walker to inside and have Trayvon Walker be a backup when you're supposed to be developing him? But no matter if he develops or not, you got two guys making an average of $80 million over the life of their contract already as your bookend ends. So no matter what he develops into, he won't be playing enough to really make your investment in him worthwhile. Those are questions that you have to ask. If you trade for Brian Burns, you're going to give up even more than that because Brian Burns might be I think he's a little younger than Daniil Hunter. So you're trading multiple picks, right? What would you give up for Chase Young, who hasn't played much in 2 years for Washington? They're about to pay Montez Sweat. They should, because Montez Sweat has been what Chase Young was supposed to be. One of the best young defensive linemen in the league. Since he's been in the league in terms of pressures, I think he's in like the top 6 or top 7. Very, very productive player. They didn't even extend Chase Young a 5th-year option. So somebody hit me up and said, well, he's top 5 in pressures the last 2 or 3 weeks. I don't want to talk about no last 2 or 3 weeks. I'm talking about the last 2 or 3 years and the next 2 or 3 years. If he's all that and his money is already guaranteed, then why the hell would Washington want to get rid of him? So just think about it. If they got all of these guys to pay, this is almost like free agency. You're swapping your draft picks out, your future draft picks for free agency. At positions where you've already committed other people. Are you going to admit that you're deficient in that area because of the choices that you made? Are you going to get both guys? And would you get one of those guys in? First of all, if you trade for a guy, you better extend him. You just better hope that he outplays Josh Allen and you says, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to put him in. We're going to just let Josh walk next year. We'll let Josh walk and we'll take a compensatory pick for Josh and we'll sign this other guy who we traded for so we don't have a first-round pick. But we saw him side by side with Josh for half of the year and we like him better and he makes Trayvon better than Josh makes Trayvon better. It's all this stuff, man. I sit here and I hear people say, just trade for this guy, trade for this guy, trade for this guy. And they don't understand that there are bigger ramifications because all people want to do is win. And all they want to do is look at their football team and have it look the way that they want it to look. And I'll just remind everybody that they're 3-2. They could have been 4-2 real easily. 4-1, but they're not. And they're probably going to be 6-2 here in the next 3 weeks. And we're sitting here looking like they need to do this, do this, do this, do this. I feel you, Jaguar fans, but sometimes, man, I just don't think people think this stuff through. I'm not saying that I wouldn't want one of those guys on our team. I'm just telling you when we so loosey-goosey and laissez-faire about how we're going to obtain it and what that means moving forward, that we need to understand. It ain't that easy, Jack. It ain't that easy to look the way Philadelphia looks. Something easy to do would have just been to claim Randy Gregory off waivers or reach out and trade a 6th-round pick for Randy Gregory, but they didn't do that, right? Somebody else already paid him. He can come in here and be the 3rd guy. If he's good enough, you can move on from Josh. If he's not, you re-sign Josh. No harm, no foul. He's already on the roster. And Arden Key's one of those dudes that's getting a lot of pressures too. So look, I don't know, man. I don't have the answers, but I want y'all to think it through. Think it through. Shout out to Darius Williams for getting my spotlight today here on Locked On Jaguars. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We'll give you the news and notes of the day and everything else that's going on in the Jaguars organization on a hump day. And then we'll get ready for crossover. And, of course, all the things heading up to the weekend as a home game against the Colts. You guys, make sure you take care of each other. I'll do the same thing. Thank you all for your well wishes once again. And until then, take care of each other. We'll see you next time on Locked On Jaguars.